Fellas, how good is Arman Tsarukyan? So as you guys have probably been seeing, Arman Tsarukyan has been everywhere. These past couple of weeks, he's been on shows, he's been on podcasts, everywhere you look online. I've been seeing Arman Tsarukyan all over the place, so I thought now would be a good time to talk about how good is Arman Tsarukyan, and is it fair that he's kind of been faded into the background of 155, at least treated that way by the UFC? And I thought we'd start off with the resume of Arman Tsarukyan, which seems to be a bit of a controversial topic, at least when it comes to Dana White. So if we look at the best resumes right now at 155, it's between Arman Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje, which is where the whole debate of Tsarukyan being the most deserving comes from. If you compare the resume of Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje by their last 5 fights, I think it's fair to say that Gaethje has the better quality of wins compared to Arman Tsarukyan. You know, the guy just beat Paddy Pimblett by a pretty dominant decision. He knocked out Dustin Poirier a few years back. He's beat Fiziev twice as well. So I think resume-wise and quality of wins, you've got to give it to Justin Gaethje. But unlike Arman, Gaethje has taken a loss recently to Max Holloway. I mean, we can't really forget about the loss to Max Holloway. He got battered for 25 minutes and then knocked out cold to put the cherry on top, which is a reason why a lot of people are mad at Justin Gaethje getting the next title fight. On top of that as well, one's beaten Oliveira, one's been demolished by Oliveira, which in terms of promotion isn't the best look as well. And not to mention the fact that Gaethje's already had 2 title shots before, not even counting the BMF one to Holloway, and he's lost both of them by submission. So there's a big argument between the resumes between Arman and Gaethje. In terms of opponents, you can give it to Gaethje, but nearly every other factor, it is pretty widely agreed upon that Arman Tsarukyan is the most deserving guy at 155 right now when it comes to getting the next title fight if you take in every other factor. And we'll also go into the wrestling of Arman Tsarukyan in terms of the pure skill set. Now, Arman, I think, is top 3 best wrestlers in the UFC today. If you don't know, Lance Palmer is this NCAA wrestler, this big wrestler in America, and Arman Tsarukyan fucking demolished him in a grappling match they had, I think, earlier on this year, a couple of months back. He's also out-wrestled Makhachev for a little bit in their fight. I'd say the first round of his fight with Makhachev, who's obviously well known to be one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, Arman Tsarukyan proved his wrestling in that fight. I think he's got equal wrestling to Makhachev. The fight with Oliveira dominated Oliveira, well, didn't dominate Oliveira, but at least out-wrestled Oliveira for the majority of their fight, getting the decision win. And as we've just seen, ragdolled Dan Hooker and has ragdolled many other opponents before. I mean, if you look at 155 right now, Arman's by far the best. Now that Makhachev's gone, Arman is by far the best grappler in this division, or at least the best wrestler at 155. And then if we talk about the striking of Arman Tsarukyan, he's improving massively. Is he one of the best in the division? No, he's not. Is he a one-dimensional wet blanket grappler? No, he's not. I mean, we just saw his fight with Dan Hooker, who seemed to be one of the best kind of scrappers in the division. Arman was winning that fight on the feet. You can talk about the threat of the takedown, but Arman Tsarukyan was tuning up Dan Hooker on the feet. It wasn't like Dan Hooker was winning the striking exchanges. That was all going to Tsarukyan. He was piecing up Dan Hooker in the striking exchanges. He also obviously knocked out Beneil Dariush. Is that a big, is that a prestigious win nowadays? I'm not sure, but he still did it. He's knocked people out before in the UFC. The striking of Arman Tsarukyan's improving a lot. His chin, it's unknown how good his chin is. His stamina, I'd say he's got pretty average stamina. He clearly has a very explosive punch power. And to be fair to Arman, if you look at the rest of the division, you look at Max Holloway, elite striker, weak grappling. You look at Justin Gaethje, great striker, weak grappling. You look at like a Paddy Pimblett, mesh striker, but really good grappling, great grappling. Whereas Arman Tsarukyan, I'd say, is one of the most well-rounded in this division in the sense that he's a good striker and he's got elite grappling. His grappling is elite, and he's also got really good striking as well. He's good everywhere the fight goes. The only other guy in this division that can compare to Arman in that sense is Mr. Ilia Topuria himself. So that's another reason why a lot of people want to see Tsarukyan get the next title fight. And this is why Arman kind of is seen as done dirty by the UFC. And I think the simple answer is because Egg hates him. Dana hates him. I mean, it's no surprise that Dana White isn't the most fond of Arman Tsarukyan. If he has the opportunity to not give Arman Tsarukyan a big fight, he's going to take that opportunity. For example, before the Dan Hooker fight, Dana White did confirm that this was going to be a title eliminator, and then after he wins, all of a sudden he's forgot about the promise of it being an eliminator. It seems like every other lightweight Dana White has his eyes on, and he kind of just wants to forget about Arman Tsarukyan and only has to give him a fight once a year at minimum. Like, Arman beats Oliveira, which should give most people a title fight. He then beats Dan Hooker on top of that, and then he still doesn't get a title fight. Even after beating Oliveira, Dan Hooker, and Dariush in a row, he still demanded to get another shot, even though he hasn't lost since a controversial loss to Gamrot a few years back. So he has no title shot, no BMF shot, no eliminator. So that's kind of why Arman is done dirty. Now we're going to go through reasons why Arman Tsarukyan isn't done dirty, and some potential reasons why Arman Tsarukyan not getting the title fight is understandable. I mean, we go back to the Dariush fight that he had, and it wasn't even the Dariush fight himself, it was more of Bobby Green. He slapped Bobby Green backstage, caused an altercation with Bobby Green, which was kind of the beginning of the run of unprofessionalism for Arman Tsarukyan, because then we see at UFC 300, the biggest card of all time, when he was, setting out to fight Oliveira, he punches a fan on the way out, punches a fan at UFC 300 with all those eyes on him, gets suspended and fined for a fan altercation, and obviously he wasn't seen until he fought Dan Hooker after UFC 300, and obviously he got sued as well. You go to the fight with Makhachev, he gets rewarded with a title fight, and obviously pulls out of the title fight last minute due to a back injury, but I think a lot of people agree that was probably due to him not being able to make weight, showing signs of unprofessionalism. Then he gets the fight with Dan Hooker, he's time to redeem himself, and he headbutts Dan Hooker after getting an easy main event, headbutts him at the weigh-in, and he's so lucky that he didn't injure Dan Hooker there, because had he injured Dan Hooker, mate, he would have been cut from the UFC. So is he reliable? He's not reliable. He causes an altercation in nearly every fight that he has. He's not a good sport, so it's understandable why Dana White would prefer guys like Holloway and Oliveira and Gaethje and Paddy, guys who were bigger stars than Arman and are more reliable, than to give Arman a title shot. Like I said, they're bigger stars, they're more reliable. It's understandable why Dana White might have the privilege towards these certain fighters. And on top of that, he almost ruined the fight with Dariush because he could have injured Bobby Green. He almost ruined his fight with Dan Hooker had he injured Dan Hooker with the headbutt. He did ruin the fight with Makhachev, obviously with the way that he pulled out last minute, so he's just not reliable. So that's why Arman isn't done dirty. And now we're going to talk about how he fares against the potential lightweight division, and we'll start off with the interim champion, the two most deserving guys right now, 155, Justin Gaethje and Arman Tsarukyan, deserving in their own rights like we went at the beginning. Now I think the big uproar of why people don't want to see Gaethje get a title fight is because, let's be honest, Arman would destroy him. After watching Gaethje versus Pimlet, as good as Gaethje looked, it doesn't really take away my suspicion that Arman Tsarukyan would destroy Justin Gaethje. I mean, Arman's striking is improving, he's explosive. It honestly won't surprise me these days if Arman was to land a big shot and drop and ground and pound finish Justin Gaethje, but I think the wrestling of Tsarukyan would dominate. He'd take down Gaethje, he'd ragdoll him. He's on a completely different operating level to Paddy Pimlet in the grappling department, so I think Arman Tsarukyan would smash Gaethje to bits on the ground. It's one thing not getting taken down by Paddy, but for Tsarukyan, it's a completely different ballgame. And we've seen Gaethje, he loses title fights before by submission and predominantly grappling. Arman's not an idiot, he's not going to stand and fight with him. He's going to take him down and try and get the finish early as possible. So I think Arman would demolish Gaethje. In terms of Holloway, this would be really fun. One of the best strikers versus the best grapplers in this division, but I still think Arman destroys Holloway. And this isn't just for the bias of the video, but Max Holloway's never faced a wrestler. Off the top of your head right now, name one wrestler that Max Holloway's faced. You can't. He's never faced one. Arman Tsarukyan's the best wrestler in the UFC, or at least at 155, the division which Holloway's competing at. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arman Tsarukyan demolished Max Holloway. No disrespect to Holloway, but this ain't just another dogfight on the feet. This is Tsarukyan. Your first wrestler in the UFC, your first big wrestler, being the best in the weight class, the top guy at 155. That's a nightmare for Holloway, especially when he got taken down by Ilya too. So I think Arman would wrestle fuck Holloway, probably get a ground and pound finish or even a submission. I think there'd be a nasty night for Max Holloway. I think the BMF champion would get smashed to pieces by Arman Tsarukyan. And then you've got Paddy Pimlet. I mean, I think this only... The fight between Paddy and Arman is only... The differential's only widened after watching Paddy versus Gaethje. With all due respect, even though if they're different styles, if you ain't beating Gaethje, you ain't beating Arman. You know, Arman would destroy Paddy Pimlet. I think he'd out-wrestle him completely, evade the jiu-jitsu, and I think we'd really see what a real grappler looks like compared to Paddy's grappling. This kind of fight just gives me like Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell vibes, where Paddy's obviously Bryce Mitchell in this situation, Arman's Topuria. That's the fight. Those are the vibes this fight gives me. But yeah, Arman would smash Paddy to bits. It's got Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell vibes. And then for Arman versus Ilya Topuria, well, this is the big question. This is the big fight that a lot of people want to see that we're not going to see because of reasons I went over earlier. Who would win between Arman and Ilya? Well, the fact that it's so close should warrant a title fight anyway, but the honest answer is nobody knows. I have been going back on my fourth on my pick between Arman and Ilya for so long, and this is what makes this fight so exciting. We can talk about resume and how Gaethje's got the belt and better quality of wins, but in terms of competition, I don't think there's a more competitive fight at 155 right now than Arman versus Ilya, between two guys on the rise. So that's the fight everybody wants to see, and those are my thoughts on how good Arman Tsarukyan is as far as skill goes, as far as resume goes, as far as how he fares up. Let me know your thoughts. If you agree, disagree, thank you for watching.